This is my Montserrat Stratian Voices, and our voice today is Miss Jewel Greer. Welcome to my Montserrat, Jewel.
Oh, thank you so very much. It's a blessed opportunity.
So how are you today?
I am absolutely wonderful. I'm enjoying the beautiful Montserrat scenery. Agoutis running outside in the back door. What more could I ask for?
I heard what sounded like some cockfowl back there.
I haven't heard this in a long time, and I'm enjoying it.
For the people who might not know who you are, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I hail from Salem in Montserrat. I was born and raised here. All my education I completed here. For many years I worked here. I started out as a radio announcer at Radio Montserrat. I worked for Gem Radio as news director. I went on to Zerati in Tortola as news director, program manager. And circumstances changed, and I moved on to America.
You were working at Radio Montserrat for a time. Tell us a little bit about that. Some of the folks you worked with and what it was like.
Well, I started out as a radio announcer. I was trained with the very best, Mike Jarvis and Wilsey White. When I listen to the radio now, and I said, you know what? I just wish that we had role models like those still around to shape these young people, because I know there's talent in Montserrat just waiting.
Right.
Just waiting to come out.
I mean, Wilsey was a giant.
Oh, he was indeed. And especially now come Christmas time, he would be bustling. He would be on top of everything. He wanted every cultural event to be on that radio.
I mean, we are very lackadaisical when it comes to preserving our culture. Wilsey was way ahead of his time.
Tell me about it. And it was just that you got a double dose of it, because you had him and you had Mike Jarvis.
Right.
And the two of them were working towards the same goal. And I was privileged enough to be trained by the very best.
So who were some of the other guys who were on here when you were there? I know we had some of the personalities.
With Frankie Aaron, Freddie J, Franklin Grinaway, Esco Henry. I still refer to him as my little Herman Sargent. He took over from me when I went to Gem Radio. JGP. I forget her name. But there were just so many different people that came through there. So many talents that came through there.
Right.
And sometimes I said, even though that you're not in the business anymore, you don't do that anymore, it's still within you. So any way that you could help to foster this talent that we have here, you should always reach out to it. I have not been in a position to reach out. No one has reached out to me here, but in Boston I have a lot of opportunities where people reach out to me, and I still continue reading in the public schools, doing stuff like that and just carrying it on.
Right.
In my church, any opportunity that I get that I could share, because sometimes I tell people, I learned from Wilsey and from Mike that when you're on the radio especially and you're programming for people out there to hear, you're programming for the little man who can't read, for somebody who can't run to get a newspaper. You have to be so fluent. You have to be, speaking in that kind of language that even the simplest of man could understand you.
Right. Right.
But
mostly because when you realize that there are a lot of days when their connection to the world is the only connection they have to the outside world really is through what you're giving them. So
exactly. And when I look on Facebook page especially, Montserratians are grasping at every straw they could get, anything that could connect them to Montserrat culturally.
Yeah, especially people like you and I who are living outside.
Yes, every little thing. And it's so nice, and I'm just thankful for this opportunity, because I tell you, when I come back here, and like yesterday I walked from Alveston to Salem, you hear the water running in the gut. You just put up your hand and you could pick a tamarind. You hear the rain singing in the mountain. You hear the roosters crowing. It's just those little things that bring back all these memories. I talk about the trumpet flowers on the mountaintop. It is all so beautiful.
Right.
Montserrat, still nice.
Wonderful.
Montserrat is still nice.
So what was Gem Radio like in the early days when you went over there?
Gem Radio, and it was so funny you mentioned Gem Radio. Was coming home last week. And I met this guy on the plane, and we were talking, and he said, "You're from Montserrat?" I said, "Yes." And he said he's from Antigua. So I was talking to him about my book, and then he told me, he said, "Well, I have a brother who used to work in Montserrat too." I said, "Who is your brother?" He said, "Nat Moses." I said, "Nat Moses was my boss at Gem Radio." Because when I went to Gem Radio, he had Kenneth Lee and Nat Moses, who were the managers there.
Right.
Yes, so I followed Kevin Lewis to Gem Radio. And with Gem Radio, it's just that I was elevated to another level because I did radio announcing there, and I went on to do news at Gem Radio. It was my passion. I love to read, and that's what I wanted to do, always wanted to do. I was never interested in being an announcer. But it all factored in well because the thing with Montserrat, learning broadcasting here, as opposed to going to a school, you'll be in a specialized field. If you do news, you're just going to do news. But like with Radio Montserrat, I tell them that's a university of its own.
Right.
Because you learn everything. You could edit, you could make your commercials, you could read. There's no end.
Yeah.
What you could learn at Radio Montserrat.
Guzi and Mike gave you the opportunity to learn just everything.
Yes, and I tell you, if you get the opportunity to learn anything new every day, grasp it. And I say to my daughter every day, don't turn down any challenge that come at you, because challenges help us to grow.
Yeah, and you never know when something might come in handy.
You just never know. And I just kept going from strength to strength, and it's just that you have this talent within you, and you find the right people who could motivate that talent to help it to grow. You yourself, you're just on fire. You just can't help yourself.
Right.
You want to reach as high as you can. And it has been awesome. I went to Tortola, and I was so well received in Tortola. I remember when the Prime Minister died, Lavish Stout, and Kevin Lewis, who taught me how to do a documentary. I did the first documentary on my own in less than half an hour on that on the Prime Minister when he died. And it was just awesome. And that's what I'm saying. The talent that you learn, you never go away from it, no matter how long you've been out in the business.
Right.
If it's your natural talent, it will just come right back to you. So I'm hoping maybe one day I could go over to Radio Montserrat and I could host a show before I leave.
That would be great, right?
Yes, so I'm going to try to hook up with Basil or somebody, Herman or somebody over there and see what happens.
Okay.
Now God has given me this blessing with my new book, Prayers for Everyday Living.
Okay. What was your inspiration for the book?
Well, since for 8 years now, I've walked in the Christian way. And before I gave my life to Christ, I could tell people I didn't have any struggles as great as I have experienced over the past 8 years. And every struggle that I've been through, I overcame through prayer. I am still overcoming through prayer. And the prayers I wrote in my journal every day. I write in a prayer journal every day. All my thoughts, everything that troubles me, no matter what I'm going through, I put it in my journal. I put it to God during my meditation time. And one day I was on this temp job. As I was laid off so many times, there's a prayer in my book for that, showing you that you could overcome. And I was on this job and it was so slow. And, it just came to me to start writing again. And when I started writing, I sat there one day and I wrote about 20 prayers and I had no block at all. And I said, this has to be God's blessing. And I just kept writing from there, every day I would come in and, things slow and rather than gossiping and, just wasting time, I would just write. And one day I said, what? It just came to me, well, why don't you try and get your prayers published out of the blue? So when I said, what? Everything I do, I have to pray about it. And I said, God, I'm going to ask you if this is the right time, if this is something that you have in store for me to do. Because I never thought about doing it before. And I prayed about it, and something just told me to go online. I know it was the answer, because it was as clear as crystal. When I went online, I got 2 publishers. And Tate Publishing was the first one that came up. And I submitted my documents to them. And when I submitted the manuscript, it took them 3 months before I heard anything back. And I said, what, they probably don't like my work. But what they were saying that of the 100% that they get, the hundreds of manuscripts that they receive every year, they only accept about 10%.
Oh, okay.
And I said, what, this had to be God's blessing. And they say they were going over my work because they were so wrapped up in it. You know, they went from one editor to the next, and they were just going over it, and they were ready to go forward. And then at the time they said they were ready to go forward, there it was. I got laid off again. Couldn't pay my investment portion, so everything just stood still. But then after I got another job, I started paying my investment portion. Then what happened? I called the publishing company and I said, well, hey, I can't pay my investment portion, so I guess I'm just going to have to cancel the contract.
Right.
They said, you know what, we're not going to cancel it. We're going to hold it open. And you know, the struggles that you go through and people don't understand when you tell them, like for some people who read this book and they said, but Joe, you mentioned that you've been in prison. I didn't know you were in prison. I say every day we are in prisons of our own making.
Right.
Because you're in prison of hatred, jealousy, unforgiveness, you know, rebelliousness, and that was me. Because when you see you're trying to serve the Lord and things are not working out, and you just wonder, well, what is next?
Right.
So all this, I just kept writing. Never stopped writing. And then when I one night I lay down and it was a real rough day. And I walked my hallway at 2 o'clock in the morning and I said, God, this is not the abundant life that you promised me. I said, there has to be something better. This is not the abundant life. And he said to me as clear as crystal, wherever the job comes tomorrow, you take that job. And I could tell you the next morning out of the blue, this lady called me from the agency and sent me to this place called Cross International. The lady interviewed me and he said, you know what? We can't pay you with the skills that you have. As soon as something better comes up, you're going to leave. And I say, I'm going to take the job. He already told me to take the job.
Right.
I didn't get it. I come back and I say, Lord, you tell me to take the job, and I'm angry now. I'm saying, you tell me to take the job. I went and I told him I want to take the job, and I still don't get it. So what do I do now? He said, you know what? Go on the computer. Went on the computer. When I went on the computer, 2 jobs were calling me in Boston. Children's Hospital and this other company called.
Right.
I said, I can't go back to Boston. I have this dialogue with myself and my God going. I said, I can't go to Boston. I don't have a job. I don't have no place to stay. I don't have the money. Where are you going? And the voice said, shut up. Apply for the job. And I tell people, since the beginning of this year, God has been talking to me in such a clear language.
Right.
Sometimes I myself get afraid. I'm afraid to tell you, this is what God just told me to tell you. And you know, when I went on the computer, I applied for the 2 jobs, and I called my girlfriend, and I said to her, Yvonne, I have $90 left on my credit card. I could buy a one-way ticket to Boston. I already claimed 2 jobs, and I don't have a place to stay. He said, Joe, when you were living here, you took care of me and my children. If you want a place to stay, you got it. Would you know, within 2 weeks, I went to Boston. I got the 2 jobs I applied for in the same day.
Wow.
When everybody around me was saying they can't find a job, I got it. And I know that God took me back to Boston reason, because that is where my dedicated prayer life started. When I moved to Boston in 1997, I started a prayer and healing team there in St. Mark's Church. And when I started that prayer group, I did not know how to pray. I said, Mommy, why is God harassing me to have this prayer group and I'm not even saved? She said, if God is leading you, who are you to tell him that you can't do it?
Right.
Don't you think he will equip you? He will equip you? And that's when I started doing it again. And when I started writing, and I used to take the prayer in front of me on a piece of paper. And after a month, I didn't have to do it anymore. It was just a natural gift that I had that I was sitting on. I didn't realize that I had that gift. And God brought me back to Boston to release my book right in St. Mark's Church.
Okay, so it's basically your book is basically a collection of prayers and observations.
Prayers.
Prayers.
The thing, because I have a prayer that you could apply to almost every situation in your life. Yeah, because I've been through it. And a lot of people think that they see you every day and they see you smiling and they don't think that you have any trouble. But I tell them, as your faith in God comes stronger, your problems become easier to bear. You handle them in a different way. And that's what I'm hoping, that these prayers would help somebody else going through the same situations that I've been through to overcome. To know that they're not alone. And your situation is not different from somebody else's own, but it's just because we're not humble enough to tell somebody else, I've been through this same thing. Tell somebody else how you got through it, so somebody else could at least listen to you, and say, well, you know what, if it worked for you, it may work for me. Let me try it this way.
Right. So what has the response to the book been like?
The response has been wonderful. From the moment this book came out, and it was like before it even came out and I started telling people about this book, people were just reserving this book. They said, Joel, when we talk to you and you're always so positive, so upbeat, we can't wait to hear what's in this book and to read what's in this book. And then when it released, pre-released August 1st, it was just from one weekend to the next. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I was going to be. Different people were just inviting me to different churches, different venues. You know, I had pre-release parties, you know, and everybody was so receptive.
Nice.
And then my mother was saying to me, everybody here wants this book. People are asking for this book. And I said, I set the books on, and I said, you know what, I have a few friends who I know I could personally have copies that I could send to my friends. I got here before them, but I brought a few copies with me. And the responses that I've been getting here in Montserrat is just overwhelming. And I could only give God the thanks and praise for that.
Okay, nice. So you told me earlier you were on a book tour?
Well, the book tours that I do are scheduled by my publisher.
Oh, okay.
So that's what I'm saying. From one day to the next, from one week to the next, I don't know where I'm going to be.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some that I do on my own. Like for instance, I'm here. Didn't know they had a literary festival here.
Right.
Made contact. I was able to do an open mic session on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I am working with the librarian to schedule a reading at the library. I'm going to do a reading for the old folks at the Golden Years home. You know, so I do as much as time allows.
Where can we get the book online? Tell us where it's available.
That has been the most humbling experience for me, to Google my name and see my name fly up on all these websites where the books are being sold. My publisher works directly with Amazon.com and BarnesandNobles.com.
Uh-huh.
And they go through their own publisher clearinghouse, and the book is available online, in print, in CD, and also for audio download. And that is amazing.
So it's available basically at all the major retailers online?
Yes, as of November 1st.
Right. And the title again is Praise for Everyday Living.
For everyday living.
Okay.
Words of encouragement to refresh and comfort you. I have some people who say, you know what, I don't read the book from cover to cover.
Mm-hmm.
I read the book depending on what prayer I need for the day. And I say, that's okay. Yeah, I also have a Facebook page that I started to promote the book.
Uh-huh.
Then from the day I started it, I post a daily inspirational message on my Facebook page. And some people are saying, Joe, we don't go to church, we don't read the Bible. We are like peeping Toms on your page because we look for that inspirational message every day.
Okay, we'll put the link up to that when we put the interview up, so people can check that out.
Yes, yes, and that has been good. You know, and I tell people everywhere I go, that's what, I said that is what God is leading me to do, just to speak to people out there. And it's a natural gift that He has given to me, and I've been sitting on it for so long. But now, thank God that He has given me the insight to go over there and do not be afraid.
Right.
So every day I tell people I'm ready and willing, and God will make me able for whatever task He set before me.
So Jewel, you know, the best of luck with promoting the book. It's fantastic.
So thank you. Thank you so very much, and I thank you all for this opportunity that I'll be able to share with somebody else out there. And I tell people, when I give you a bookmark, or when you see my name pop up on my Facebook page, and you have an email address, you have a phone number, you're going through a hard time, you need somebody to talk to, you need somebody to pray with you, don't be afraid to call me.
Okay. Thanks.
This token is but all I can afford to give you, girl. And I will try hard not to breathe a word of sorrow. You were my guide when I was drifting. You lifted me when I was low. How can I help but ask this question? Who's gonna reach me when my friend, my only one. I take some comfort in the strength I've gained from times we shared. And sure I know that I'm prepared to face tomorrow. Yet at the end of every chapter, there is an urge to reminisce. So I keep searching for the answer. Who's gonna reach me when you're gone? Who's gonna be my friend, my only one? Who's gonna be my friend? Who's gonna be my friend? This token is but all I can afford. Don't change your mind. Accept it, girl, but please don't breathe a word of sorrow. Just let the truth that fills this moment see through my mind.